TMCnet at NextCom 2008.
Good afternoon. Welcome again. Pleased here to have for a brief impromptu interview Richard Shockey, who is on the board of directors of the SIP Forum, as well as a member of the Technical Working Group.
Chair of the Technical Working Group.
Chair of the Technical Working Group, thank you. And we're joined by Marc Robbins, who's the managing director of the SIP Forum. Welcome,
Hi,
gentlemen.
Eric. Thank you.
Marc, can you start us off by just telling us a little bit about what the SIP Forum's doing and particularly how and why you've been experiencing the growth in the membership that you have over the past 5-6 months or so?
Sure. Well, the SIP Forum is an 8-year-old nonprofit industry association, and it's made up of all the leading IP communications companies that stem from the service provider space to equipment vendors, enabling technology vendors. And basically the mission of the forum is to progress the advancement of IP communications technology, especially SIP-related IP comm technology, and to basically move the needle in terms of interoperability among the various players in the industry so that they're able to work together with their various services and equipment, and augment the work of the standards bodies so that we fill the gaps that the standards bodies really don't deal with, especially with interoperability issues, which is one area that they tend not to deal with. And I think the growth of the forum over the last 5 months, we've grown about 100% in full member, dues-paying companies, as well as individual participant membership. And that's occurred over the last 5 to 6 months. And that's mainly due to the work we're doing in the SIP trunking area with our SIP Connect technical recommendation, which is basically a document that presents guidelines and rules for interoperability among all the players in the industry, all the service providers and equipment vendors that make product that play into the SIP trunking space. And I think, Rich here, with his work on the Technical Working Group, is a perfect person to talk about, the value of SIP Connect and the various, new initiatives that we're doing right now in that space.
Absolutely, and certainly these days you can't talk about SIP without adding the word trunking to it. Everybody's talking about it, and everybody's doing SIP trunking. So with that said, Richard...
Exactly. What we're trying to do is Marc correctly pointed out, fill in the gaps to where the ITM standards were really not applicable, and actually produce a deliverable specification that both the PBX manufacturer and a service provider can use to say, if you do what's in this sheet of paper, it's going to work. And I think one of the things that we're trying to do with SIP Connect is create branding around the concept of SIP trunking, the way we see here at NextCom with WiMAX, Wi-Fi, Metro Ethernet, basically quality assurance that if you're compliant with these kinds of specifications, you've got a go-to-market strategy. And so for service providers in particular, this is probably the biggest low-hanging fruit, in the high profitability markets. 80% of all primary rate interfaces in the United States are small and medium businesses under 50 seats. And both cable operators, innovative service providers like CBON, EXO, Global Crossing, Level 3 realize that this is now probably the best growth story for the carriers, that they've got.
Now, one of the things that's worth noting is you've recently seen the ratification of version 1.0, right?
Right.
Now, and you're working on version
1.1.
1.1.
The 1.0,
where does that bring you?
As some of my tactical colleagues say, what we tried to do in 1.0 was dial tone, IP dial tone, for lack of a better word. But obviously you need to transfer the call eventually and things like that. So we're now, we had a strong push by both the PBX vendors and the service providers to come back to the table, come up with a series of goals and opportunities that everybody wanted to address, and come up with a functional 1.1 specification to build on the success that we've got right now, as evidenced by the growth of the membership itself, which is drawing in cable operators like Cox, Comcast. They're partnering with their standards body, Cable Labs, to bring a sort of a unified position to the table. Microsoft is very, very interested in their go-to-market strategy for OCS, the Office Communication Server product. The one feature that they were really lacking in there was really a good SIP trunking story. So Microsoft saw that SIP Forum is the right place to go to get the work done. And we're certainly pleased to have them as well. And we're getting more and more interest, right now because, again, as I mentioned, it's hard to emphasize strongly enough, both for PBX manufacturers as well as for service providers, that the traditional TDM PRIs are the bottleneck. This is why we're not seeing service innovation, reduction in cost, more features, more functionality. If you still got that copper wire between you and the service provider, you've got a problem. And so fixing this now is a big driver for everybody that we see here and there.
So what going forward? What sort of ongoing projects, directives do you have?
Well, there's actually some other issues as well. We're looking at a variety of different kinds of things in our technical working groups to go forward on. I think we're looking very clearly at fax, for instance. Fax over SIP has been, shall we say, challenging for some service providers, to say the least.
That's an area that's ripe for a similar recommendation along the lines of SIP Connect. To present guidelines and rules for actually how you make it work.
Contrary to popular opinion, fax is not dead by any stretch of the imagination. With HIPAA rules, with Sarbanes-Oxley, and a variety, it's actually gotten a considerable amount of resurgence recently. Right. So for service providers trying to deliver the triple play, video, voice, one way or the other, there's always this little thing. Oh, it got tripped up. We still have a fax machine. Or we need support for V34 modems. I'll give you a good example. Some friend of mine in the cable industry talk about their favorite triple play, which is the auto repair shops, or the automobile dealerships. Now, most of these people have never had a service provider knock on their door in the last half century. So they go into an automobile dealership, and basically they're ready to sign on the dotted line immediately. Video for the showrooms, video in the auto repair waiting rooms, Wi-Fi for the customers, as well as regular, traditional phone service. But they get tied up on two issues. One, they still need a fax machine. But also, it's typically the state inspection station also has a V34 modem that you've got to support as well. So, to really put the all IP triple play into the small and medium business marketplace, we've got to address all those issues.
And I will add, some of the other things we're working on is looking at SIP security, also unified communication, interoperability issues is also something that's bugging a lot of companies. So these are, things that we're looking at in terms of our technical working group sub-task groups, in terms of adding initiatives.
Why is it important for the industry, for the vendors, for the service providers to have somebody like SIP Forum working on these recommendations and initiatives?
Without us, frankly, it's like the Wild West. Companies are doing proprietary technologies, proprietary implementations of technologies, and left to their own devices, they'll probably not see any need to agree on a consensus in terms of how to make things work, right?
Well, and just we see here in the industry, even though IEEE does a lot of standards, we still have a Wi-Fi forum, we still have a Wi-Fi forum. And, I come out of the ITF, and there are 150 RFCs that define what SIP is. And there's probably another 150 behind it. as various internet drafts in one stage of the form. The problem, of course, is for a service provider or the equipment vendor, what do I do? You see this gigantic pile of paper, and to try and rationally make sense of it into an implementable profile or a deliverable needs a SIP forum to accomplish it.
You need an independent body, separate from the interests of any one company in particular, and something that's going to represent the industry at large.
Fantastic. We've been chatting here with Richard Shockey and Marc Robbins from the SIP Forum. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this afternoon. You guys have your work cut out for you with the SIP Forum. We look forward to seeing what you can come up with. And enjoy the rest of the show. Thanks again for joining us.